My husband booked a romantic dinner at the most expensive restaurant in San Diego. Not for our anniversary, not for my birthday. For her, the woman he'd been seeing behind my back for nearly a year. But instead of crying in the dark, like he probably expected, I put on the silk dress he once said was too loud for dinner and reserved the table right next to theirs. Then I invited her husband to join me. We arrived 10 minutes early, and by the time their candle was lit, both of their lives were already beginning to burn. My name is Diana Keller. I'm 41 years old, a university lecturer, and for 17 years I thought I knew the man I married. I thought I knew love. I thought I was safe. Until I read the messages, saw the photos, and realized trust is only sacred until someone decides it's inconvenient. Have you ever discovered something so cold, so devastating, that your body forgot how to breathe for a moment? Would you have walked away quietly or sat down, smiled, and let the truth speak for itself? Let me show you what happened next, and then you tell me. Was I too calm or just done pretending? If you've ever been betrayed and kept silent, comment 1 below and don't forget to follow EN Reddit Story for more real stories that make justice feel real. To everyone on the outside, Nathan and I were the picture of stability. We had a beautiful home tucked in the quiet hills of San Diego. Biannual vacations we posted like clockwork, matching coffee mugs in the kitchen. And that odd sense of we made it that people in long marriages like to believe we had routines. He made the coffee, I packed his lunch, I graded papers in the evening. He poured wine and rubbed my shoulders like we were still 25. But somewhere along the line, he stopped looking me in the eyes. His kisses landed on my cheek, never my lips, and the silences between us became heavier. I chalked it up to work stress. Nathan was a partner at one of the top law firms downtown. Late meetings, out-of-town trips, long nights catching up in his home office. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't want to know the truth. You see, it's easier to pretend you're okay than to confront the possibility that your life is a lie. Then came that Tuesday evening. He was in the shower. I was folding laundry, same as always. Then I heard the soft ping of a message. I glanced at his phone on the nightstand. It lit up. A dinner confirmation. Lumière, Friday 7:30 p.m. Table for 2, window seat. She'll love it, Lumière. The restaurant we had once dreamed of going to on our 10th anniversary. The one we skipped because Nathan claimed he had a conference. I stood still for a long time. I hadn't planned to unlock his phone, but my hand moved before my thoughts caught up. The passcode was still our wedding date. 4 digits that used to mean something, and then I fell. Not physically, but somewhere inside me collapsed. Messages, photos, a full year of flirtations, hotel stays, and intimate whispers typed into a screen instead of spoken to the woman he came home to every night. Her name was Brielle Dawson. She worked in communications at Nathan's firm, younger, blonde, confident, and curled up in his arms in the photos from Santa Barbara. The man I saw in those images, I didn't recognize him. His smile wasn't just happy. It was young, new, free, and I had been home washing his socks, waiting for the sound of keys in the door. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was stare as the life I thought I had unraveled line by line across that glowing screen. Nathan, I called, steadying my voice. Your blue tie. It's in the second drawer. He stepped out of the bathroom a minute later, hair damp, humming softly. He kissed the top of my head and I smiled. Just like always. That night I lay beside him, my back to his chest. My eyes open to the ceiling. My hand clenched beneath the pillow. Every breath he took beside me felt like a lie whispered into the dark. But I didn't confront him. Not then. I needed time. Not to cry, to prepare. By morning he kissed my cheek and said, "Wish me luck." Big client meeting, I smiled. Good luck with the Japanese merger. And as soon as the door shut behind him, I picked up my phone, called my department head, and requested 3 days off. Not for grief, for strategy. Because if Nathan wanted a perfect dinner at Lumière, I was going to make sure it happened with all the right people in the room. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time that morning. A mug of coffee turned cold in my hands. No music, no noise, just silence thick enough to drown in. 17 years of marriage. And it took less than 1 minute on a glowing screen to show me I had been living with a stranger, but I wasn't going to be the woman who smashed plates in the kitchen. I wasn't going to scream or beg or cry on the floor. know I was going to sit at his dinner, smile across the table, and destroy every illusion he thought was safe in the dark. I pulled up his calendar. He was meticulous. Every case, every flight, every dinner labeled and color-coded. Friday 7:30 p.m. reservation at Lumière window seat, soft lighting wine pre-ordered. The perfect night for two people with matching lies and hidden rings. I typed her name into the staff directory, Brielle Dawson, internal communications. A few clicks later, I found her public profile, and with it something even better. Liam Dawson, executive architect, her husband. There was a photo of the two of them, hiking smiling, her head resting on his chest with the same ease she now gave Nathan. I stared at his face, not because I knew him, but because I knew what betrayal felt like. And I thought maybe he deserved to know too, but I couldn't just message him out of the blue. Hey, your wife's sleeping with my husband. That would only create a wall I needed to walk him in gently. Let the truth speak for itself. So I played the role I'd mastered for years. Composed, polite professional. As a university lecturer, I had access to invite guest speakers. So I wrote, Dear Mr. Dawson. My name is Diana Keller. I currently teach project management at the University of San Diego. We're hosting a seminar series on sustainable urban architecture and recently reviewed your work on the Rivergate project. I'd love to discuss the possibility of inviting you as a guest speaker. Would you be available to meet this Friday at Lumière? 7:30 p.m. It was formal, clean. No red flags. No suspicion. I hit send and waited. 2 hours later, his reply lit up my screen. Thank you, Miss Keller. I'd be honored. Friday at 7:30 works perfectly. Looking forward to meeting you. I read those words over and over again. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to step into the same fire I had just walked through. I called the restaurant directly. Lumière, good evening. Yes, I'd like to book a table for two this Friday at 7:30. Ideally somewhere close to the reservation under Hamilton or Rothman. That would be Mr. Nathan Keller, I added gently. We can seat you near them, Mom. Would you prefer a window view as well? Yes, I said. And if possible, a clear view. I hung up, heart pounding. Everything was in motion now, no turning back. Friday night, I would sit in my husband's favorite restaurant, wearing the dress he hated, with the man his mistress called her husband, watching two people slowly unravel under candlelight. No confrontation, no chaos, just clarity. Because when someone betrays you, you don't need to raise your voice. You just need to shine a light and let the shadows do the rest. Friday came with perfect irony. Sunlight through my window, birdsong in the backyard, and the familiar scent of Nathan's cologne lingering in the hallway long after he left for a client dinner downtown. I didn't rush. This wasn't desperation, it was strategy. And tonight the battlefield wasn't our home. It was a restaurant wrapped in luxury and lies. At 7:10, I walked through the grand doors of Lumière. The hostess smiled. Reservation for Keller, I said. She led me to a table just steps from the large corner window, the table Nathan had requested. I wore a teal silk dress Nathan once said was too loud for a quiet evening. I wore it anyway. Not for him, but because I finally remembered how I used to feel before I started shrinking, to make room for his ego. At 7:22, Liam arrived. Tall, understated. He looked just like his photos, except his eyes held exhaustion, or maybe a kind of numbness that hadn't been named yet. Miss Keller, he asked, polite, formal. Diana, please. I stood, shook his hand, and gestured to the seat across from mine. We talked. Urban design, education, the architecture of trust, though neither of us called it that. Then at 7:31, they walked in. Nathan, in the gray blazer I bought him last year, and Brielle, in a scarlet dress so tight she may as well have been shouting. They laughed. Their fingers brushed, their world spun in its own private orbit, until Nathan pulled out her chair and happened to glance left. His eyes met mine. He froze. His hand slipped. The wine bottle tipped, barely saved by the waiter. I didn't blink. I turned back to Liam. Excuse me, I said quietly. I'll just be a moment. I walked toward the restroom, but fate sent her out first. Brielle. She froze when she saw me. Diana, she whispered. I smiled, calm, unflinching. And you must be Brielle Dawson, the woman holding my husband's hand, while hers is seated 10 steps away, her face drained of color. Please, not here. Why not? I asked. Isn't this the setting you chose? Candlelight wine secrets, marinated in Merlot. She looked as if she might cry. I leaned closer. No screaming, no drama. Just truth, something you and Nathan seem to have forgotten exists. Then I turned and Nathan was behind her. Pale, stiff Diana. What are you doing here? I didn't answer him. Instead, I stepped aside and called Liam. Could you come here for a second? Liam stood. Walked over. Eyes calm, curious. I looked at him, then back at Brielle and Nathan. Liam. This is Nathan, my husband, and I believe you recognize your wife. The silence that followed was deeper than any scream. Even the violins in the background seemed to hold their breath. Brielle covered her mouth. Nathan looked away. Liam turned to her slowly. His eyes broke first. I'll let you all finish your wine, I said gently. And don't worry. The check's on Nathan tonight. I hear he's been quite generous lately with the company card. Then I walked away, heels echoing against the polished floor. Heart pounding, but head held higher than it had in years. No one followed me, because truth, when delivered quietly, cuts sharper than any scream ever could. I didn't leave the restaurant. Not yet. Instead, I returned to my table, where Liam now sat, frozen, staring at the glass of untouched wine in front of him. His world had just cracked open the way mine had 3 days earlier. I looked at the waiter, calm, clear. Could we have a private room, please? And if possible, merge our table with the one next to us. He hesitated only a moment, then nodded. Of course, ma'am. Within minutes, we were moved to a quiet back room, dimly lit, perfectly set for 4. A table once meant for celebration was now reimagined as a courtroom without a judge. I sat beside Liam. Nathan and Brielle were ushered in by the hostess, no longer smiling, no longer proud. They looked like students caught cheating on the final exam. No one touched the menus, no one spoke. The silence was thick, not with tension, but with truth. Waiting to rise, Nathan finally broke it. Diana, I don't even know where to start. Start, I said, pouring myself a glass of water with Tuesday. The night you got that reservation confirmation. He blinked. Brielle looked down. I saw the message, read every word, every photo, every lie, carefully arranged into something that looked like love. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry. I had done all of that already alone, Brielle whispered. I'm sorry, I turned to Liam. He's my husband, she's your wife. The least we deserve tonight is the truth spoken to our faces. Liam looked straight at Brielle. What are you going to tell me? That it just happened? That you were confused? She shook her head. It started as a joke, a harmless lunch. I felt unseen at home, and Nathan. He listened. I listened too. Liam said, his voice cracking. I spent weekends redesigning your office. You said it was suffocating. I believed you. I changed it for you. Nathan turned to me. Diana, I know I broke something sacred, but I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I smiled. But it wasn't gentle. It went far the moment you looked at her, the way you used to look at me. He flinched. I pulled a small key from my purse and placed it on the table. The Celeste Hotel Room, 1203. I booked it yesterday. I'll be staying there tonight. Nathan stared. What are you saying? I'm saying, I replied evenly, that it would be best if you weren't home Monday morning. Brielle looked like she might faint. Liam was dead silent. Nathan reached for my hand. I pulled away. You don't get to touch me now. Not after letting someone else hold you while I was still cooking you dinner. Please, he said, voice shaking. I'll fix it. We'll go to therapy. I'll cut off all contact. I leaned forward. You can't fix a foundation when the rot was your choice. Day after day. Every text, every lie. Every time you kissed her and still came home to me. That wasn't one mistake. That was consistency. He collapsed into the chair, shoulders trembling. I'm not angry, I said. I'm awake. Finally, Liam stood silent. Then quietly, thank you, Diana, for showing me. He looked at Brielle. I believed in you more than I believed in myself. Brielle sobbed. I stood, adjusted my dress, and turned to them both. I hope you find whatever it was you were searching for. But understand this, everyone pays for their choices. Sooner or later, I walked out first. Liam followed. Behind us, the soft clinking of silverware resumed, as if the world hadn't just shifted. But for the 4 of us, everything had changed forever. That night in the quiet of room 1203 at the Celeste Hotel, I slipped off my heels, sat by the window, and stared at the glowing skyline of San Diego. It was beautiful, but it didn't comfort me. For 17 years, I'd been someone's wife, a hostess, a supporter. a believer. And now I didn't know who I was. But I did know who I wasn't anymore. I wasn't the woman who excused silence, who mistook absence for sacrifice, who lowered her voice to keep peace in a house already burning from the inside. The tears came, but not in sobs. Not the kind you see in movies. They came like release raw. Ugly shaking, I cried for the years. I waited by the door for every working late lie, for every meal gone cold. While Nathan laughed with someone else, I cried because I had stayed long, after my trust had been bleeding out quietly on the floor of our perfect home. I don't know how long I sat there, only that when the knock came, my pillow was soaked and my chest ached like I'd just run a marathon. It was Liam. He looked broken but composed, like someone whose world had cracked just wide enough to let clarity in. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said softly. I didn't know where else to go. I opened the door wider. "Come in." We sat in armchairs, two strangers tied together by betrayal. Outside cars passed like nothing had happened, but inside everything had. He asked me something that caught me off guard. "How did you sit through that dinner so calmly?" I smiled, weakly. "I didn't, I just waited." "Because some truths lose their power if you let someone else say them for you." He nodded. "I think I'm filing for divorce." "No surprise," I said. "Me too." There was silence. Then he asked, "Are you still angry?" I thought for a long moment. No, not in the way I was. Anger doesn't last. But what stays is the decision to never again abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. He looked at me like he understood more than anyone had in years. Before he left, he said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, a friend, I'm here." I nodded. "Thank you. Tonight you probably understood me better than Nathan did in almost 2 decades. The next morning, San Diego was wrapped in fog. I returned home not to rebuild, but to clear the remains. Nathan was already there, waiting, unshaven, eyes red. "Diana," he said, rising from the couch, like a man rehearsing a speech he already knew wouldn't work. "I know I ruined everything, but we can fix this. I ended things with Brielle. She left the firm, she's gone." I raised my eyebrows. "You think this is about her?" He blinked, confused. I continued. "I called your mother, your friends, Mark, Jenna. Everyone. I told them, not out of revenge, but because I'm done hiding so you can keep pretending." His face twisted in panic. "You destroyed my reputation." "No," I said coldly. "You did. I just stopped covering for you." He moved toward me. "Please, I love you." I stepped back. "Love without honesty is manipulation, Nathan, and I'm done being manipulated." He dropped to his knees, begging. "She meant nothing." He choked. "It was a mistake." I stared at him. "No, it was a pattern. Every text, every lie. A brick in the wall you built to push me out. Now that wall's collapsed, and I'm walking away from the debris." He whispered. "If you leave, you'll ruin my life." I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, I'll save mine." That week he sent flowers, emails, texts, all went unanswered. I met with a lawyer, filed for divorce. A friend told me Nathan had been seen alone at a bar, looking pale, withdrawn. Brielle had apparently moved back to her hometown. Their grand affair ended just as selfishly as it began. But I wasn't watching anymore. I was writing my own ending. On my terms, spring arrived early that year. I noticed it on a Saturday morning when golden light streamed across the wooden floor of my new apartment. Quiet, clean mine. The phone rang. It was Liam, coffee at Tanner's. He asked simply. I smiled. "Give me 15 minutes." Since that night at Lumière, Liam and I had stayed in touch. No expectations, no promises. Just two people learning how to breathe again after being held underwater too long. He was waiting when I arrived. 2 lattes already on the table. "Still remember what I like," I joked. "Of course," he said, smiling gently. "Nathan got it wrong for 17 years. I only had to get it right once." We laughed, not bitter laughter. The kind that said we survived. Weeks passed, then months. He spoke at my university seminars. I showed him my first gallery photos. One evening, as we watched the city glow from my balcony, he said, "I don't want to rush, but if you ever want to try again, not marriage, just something honest, built on truth, not obligation, I'm ready." I looked at him. I'm not ready to love again the old way. But maybe this, whatever this is, Maybe I've already started. He reached out, held my hand. No pressure. Just presence. 1 year later, at a retirement gala for my old advisor, I saw Nathan older, thinner. Tired. We spoke briefly. He apologized for everything. For real this time, I forgave him. Not because he asked, but because I no longer carried the weight of what he did. When he saw Liam walk in and greet me with a smile, he understood I had moved on. As Liam and I danced under soft lights, I whispered, "There was a time I thought betrayal was the end." He squeezed my hand. And now I think it was just the break I needed to find the better chapter. Because in the end, I didn't just survive betrayal, I transformed because of it. What did you think of Diana's choice? Was she too calm? Or exactly strong enough? If you were in her shoes, would you have done the same? Tell me in the comments below, and don't forget to follow EN Reddit Story for more powerful stories that show what quiet revenge really looks like.